are a full-service game design and development studio in Pittsburgh. We are the largest game development company in Pennsylvania. We have about 100 people. And we do about 2/3 what we call transformational games and about 1/3 pure entertainment, and that's very deliberate. We believe that transformational games, including educational games and apps for kids, can really make the world a better place. We also believe that entertainment media has a lot of lessons that we need to make sure that we're consistently and continually learning, and that we are developing those strategies. So we very deliberately make sure that we have hands in both of those pies. You will learn very quickly that I have a problem with metaphors that often get out of hand. I'll apologize ahead of time. We really believe that if you're not doing something fresh, there's really no point in doing it. And so this is basically a report about what it's been like in the last year, being a studio that really tries to push that pioneering spirit as far as possible. So first I'm going to talk a little bit about the experiments we did in the last year. Every year we spend a week. We say to everybody in the studio, work on what you want, put a team together. If you're interested in it, explore it, and you have this week to do that. And that has given us a lot of really interesting things. This year it gave us a game called Orion Trail. Well, we got about 20 concepts and games out of it, but Orion Trail is notable because we then took it and kickstarted it, and we're about to start full development on it. Gum Tricks is one that we did this year, which is a little totally free app. We just recently put, I'm going to play it for just a few seconds. We just recently put video into it. Now, Gum Tricks is interesting because it doesn't follow any of the patterns that a free-to-play game generally follows. There's no clear monetization path. So we've got it out there for free, and we're looking at ways to monetize it, ways to make it useful. So I'm not going to watch an ad, but I'll give you just a few seconds of the gameplay. Is it up there? Okay. So here we go. So all you're really trying to do is sort like with like, and there's a great deal of scaffolding. Hey, that's a word that I've been using in my daily life, but I just learned what it means today, so that's awesome. And so there you go. This is something that one of the guys at Schell Games put together during Jam Week initially, and then after we saw what he put together for Jam Week, he's had about 2 other weeks to work on it. And so we're really using this as an experiment to figure out, is there another monetization beyond the sort of free-to-play gambling style stuff that we could use with this game, which has a longer play pattern than affords free-to-play, but is really interesting, and we have a number of people who've downloaded are really obsessed with the high score there. So we also did a lot of VR experiments. We spent a great deal of time sort of looking at the Oculus and what it's doing, and we initially focused very much on the core gamers who are going to be the first in on that market. We did a prototype called I Expect You to Die, which is a sort of escape the room. There are evil villains out to try to get you. We did a thing called Titan, where one player, the person in the VR helmet, plays a great big monster that's trying to squash other people, and the other 2 players play little guys who are trying to shoot the great big monster. We have a mini golf prototype in VR. Jesse got very excited about the idea of being able to make sort of board game hands that can handle pieces and cards, and we've got that prototype going. At one point we had a team who had to pause on a client project, and they said, what should we do? And I said, well, somebody just made a really good otter pun, and you guys need to know, this team hadn't submitted to the App Store before, you guys need to know what that's like, and also you need to make sure you have a good animation pipeline. So do whatever you want with those ingredients, and they put together this otter space thing. This is a week's worth of work for 3 people, and it's not ready to ship, and I don't know when it will be ready to ship. But the thing that I love about it, and one of the reasons that I think it's important to point out, is that they were just making something that made them feel good. And you can really see, even as early as this is, and with as much stuff as it requires to sort of be shippable, you can really see that there was a great deal of joy in the way the team approached this. So about 3 days in, they showed it to Jesse and he said, "This is awesome. What if you could meet all the animals we've shot into space?" And 3 days later, you can come through here and you can meet all the animals we've shot into space. Now, what are we going to do with this? I don't know. But I did really love just the illustration that the same things, if you can tap into the same thing that kids tap into, that I'm really interested in this, that joy thing, that you can get some really cool stuff happening. And I will be very interested to see what this team does if they decide to move forward with Outer Space and Jam Week. Okay, so I want to show you Happy Atoms. Happy Atoms is it's a toy and a learning tool, and we originally applied for an SBIR grant, and it's also an app. And I'm just going to show you the video because it's easier to show you the video and have Jesse explain it than for me to do it.
Chemistry is an incredibly important subject that many students never fully grasp. Knowledge of chemistry is necessary to solve many real-world problems. But the way chemistry is taught now often fails to capture students' imagination, discouraging experimentation and discovery. Atoms and molecules are the building blocks.
So these are pretty early prototypes of the product. We've got it with an industrial designer now, and it's awesome.
The Happy Atom system is a tangible, interactive learning tool that combines a digital app with a physical modeling set, letting students as young as 4th grade and up through the college level see the difference between elements, feel the forces that bond them together, experiment with ways to combine them, and discover the relationships between molecular structure and molecular properties. Schell Games' team of 95 developers has wide experience creating toys, educational games, theme park attractions, and interactive museum exhibits.
In phase 1, we experimented with many ways of physically modeling molecular bonding before arriving at our current design. The atom models connect together to form molecules. Each atom has a colorful nucleus, with valence electrons extended by flexible silicon arms. Bonding sites are represented by magnets on the nucleus. Here, we create a water molecule by bonding in a single oxygen atom with these 2 hydrogen atoms. When all of the bonding sites have been filled, the molecules
This is Brooke here. I'm going to talk about her in a second. She's been really instrumental in the past year for us.
You can snap a picture of your molecule with our app. The app will identify the atoms and show the molecule they created. If you want to learn more about the molecule, tap the info button. We're using the OpenCV framework to visually identify the constructed molecules based upon their size, shape, color, and relationship between adjacent atoms. And students and teachers have really helped us to create a plan for a modeling set and app that's fun, engaging, and scientifically accurate.
The favorite part about the app was like how you could take a picture and it would like identify a molecule.
I think that using the app is different from like using the textbooks and just lecture learning because it's more hands-on and it's more visual, so it's easier to learn about this stuff.
One of the things that I liked the most about the Happy Atoms set was that it had the valence electrons and the bonding sites already there for the students. Technology is extremely important in the classroom. All the students are surrounded by it in their lives, so it's really great whenever we can bring something in that utilizes, their iPads in class. In phase 2, we plan to use that feedback from phase 1 to finalize the Happy Atoms system. We'll partner with an industrial prototyping firm to determine large-scale production methods, manufacturing, and distribution. For the app, we'll refine the molecule identification system and information display. Most importantly, we'll leverage our experience in game design to integrate engaging games that encourage exploration both in the classroom. The app will also include lesson plans and activities, giving teachers a flexible system to integrate with their curriculum. To secure large-scale classroom distribution, we plan to partner with leading educational software distributors. The physical product will be marketed online and be available through a number of outlets, including Amazon, educational catalogs, and direct sales to school districts.
At Schell Games, we believe the right toys and games can change the world. The more students who understand chemistry and pursue chemistry-related careers, the faster we will solve the world's most serious problems. Phase 1 let us show that the Happy Atom system can work. Phase 2 will let us bring that change
So this is a movie that we sent with our grant application for phase 2. And we did get the grant, and so now we're moving forward with distributing it. Brooke, who you saw on the left there, she is an educational researcher that we hired. She has been really instrumental in finding alternate sources of funding for us. So she trolls the grant space mailing lists, and anything that she thinks we might have the expertise to make a game about, she sends it out. We do a brainstorm, we determine if it's a grant that we are ready and able to make a game for. She writes the grant, we put the game design together, we send it out. She makes sure that we have really good PIs, primary investigators, and other academic partners. We've started bringing her in at the very early phases of game design to ensure that we have a plan if we want to fund ourselves or get some funding for doing some research to determine whether or not the games are effective. I highly recommend, if you've got an operation of any size, to hire an educational researcher or to partner with one in some way, because it has been really phenomenal in terms of us being able to find, as I said, new sources of funding. One of the other experiments that we're right in the middle of right now, and so I don't really have a lot of results. I don't know if any of you are familiar with GameSprout, which was a sort of community base for developers to come together and share their ideas. We made a second one called GameSprout EDU, and this is a place for teachers and developers to come together and develop ideas together. And we recently held a game jam in Seattle, and we'll see if anything comes of that. There are a lot of teachers who have great ideas for ways that kids can learn, but they don't actually have the development capability. And there's a lot of developers who don't really understand how kids learn, and bringing them together seems like there's a rich opportunity for getting some good stuff out there. Okay, so what did we release? We released, well, first of all, probably the biggest app ever released. It's Lexica, and I'm going to show it to you right now because you can't really get it on the App Store. Right now, it's still very closed. It's for, they're selling it straight into schools, our partner Amplify, and so you guys can't download it and play around with it. So I'm gonna show you what I've got here. So it ships with Amplify curriculum, and it's just there on the kid's tablet. And the plan is that the teachers don't say, here's a thing I want you to play, or this is homework, it's just there. The stated goal of this game is to engender a love of reading into middle school kids. And so this is an enormous game. This is my personal playthrough. I've been playing through for 2-3 months now. It's 5 of the largest installs that are allowed. And it's got many, many mini games in it. And the idea is just to find as many different pedagogical approaches as possible and immerse these kids in this universe so that they can discover their own love of reading. So you see here, this is my, it's called a Curioso, is the little player animal that you can play. And I'm all fancied up because I've read a lot of books in the e-reader, and reading books gives me these, in the AAA world we just call them hats, but they're augmentations. For my little guy, I'll actually show you I can change my clothes around, and this is super fun for me because I get pretty girly about it. So I'm going to put my dragon fin on, and then I'm going to go change my body, and let's see, I like that one because that's pretty nice, and etc., right? So you can do that quite a bit. And a lot of times the augmentations that you earned are themed according to the books that you're into. Like that quilty looking one that I had in the beginning, that's because I really end up reading a lot of historical books. So, I didn't start this in any particular place. This is just where I happen to be. And so this is an interesting part of the game. I have finished the story chapter, but because this game is designed so that teachers and schools can release new chapters on their own timeline, I'm basically playing in a situation where they haven't released the new chapter, and so what I've got are side quests that I can do to keep me busy and to keep me coming back to the game. So right now, I'm trying to close these portals in all the different places that I explored in this chapter. Let me take you to some of the Side games. All right, so let's do, I'm a little bit afraid to do sentence sensibility live, but I'm going to do it anyway. Oh God, that would be great, or maybe terrible. It's really hard, this is a really hard game to do live because you're doing two things. You're both constructing sentences and you're also trying to figure out what the voice of the author is so that you can understand the words, the order of the words that the author originally put them in.
So smart people leave it out.
Yes. So I'm probably just going to totally tank this, but let's start one of the early ones. All right. So all you're trying to do is find the original sentence, and it turns out that this, for me at least, this is super engaging. There are adults who find this incredibly frustrating. I haven't seen any kids have any problem with this because, well, I don't know why exactly, but they seem to love it. So. So I submit it, and it tells me where it glues together the words that are in the right order, and in this case it's pretty simple to do this, right? Okay. So then, it surfaces the book to the student, and it's very easy to get from here to actually reading the book that it's in. Alright, and so you can see, they go on, and they get very, very complex. Back to lexicon. So that's one of 10 embedded games, I think. And they vary in complexity. Some of them are very large. Some of them are just little ones like this. Anyway, so that we spent a team of, I would say, about 40 people spent 2 or 3 years making that. It's a very large game. This is 6th grade. We are still working on 7th grade, and then 8th grade comes after that. So this is just, this 9 chapters is just the first year's worth of content for kids. So moving on from Lexica, we also shipped Daniel Tiger's Dress Up and Bath Time Helper. Bath Time Helper was interesting because it was the first time that baby Margaret, who was Daniel Tiger's little sister, had been in a game. So Daniel Tiger is all social and emotional learning, which is actually a lot harder than a lot of other kinds of things because you really have to think about every single thing that you're allowing the kids to do and that you're helping the kids to do and how that's going to affect their understanding. And also, one of the things that becomes obvious as soon as somebody says it is that Fred Rogers, their social emotional learning approach is as much about helping parents as it is about kids. And so you'll notice when you're watching Daniel Tiger that the parents in the videos are always really modeling behavior and modeling ways to be effective in certain assistance with kids. And so we do a lot of that as well. We also shipped Water Bears, which I showed you before. And one of the things, I just want to show you this. The thing that I should have showed you for a nice touch is just this little thing. And I'm not going to demo this later because I've got another thing to demo, but I do want to show you this for the nice touch, if it will load. Alright, so let's just go in here. Same puzzle, and yeah, we can start over. So you can see he responds when I touch him, but he's still pretty sad. Now I'm going to fill it up. And then I'm going to touch him. And tickles. So there you go. And we're taking that sensibility a little further with our VR stuff. So this week we're shipping the actual shipping first level of I Expect You to Die. It's up on Oculus Share, and I encourage you to download it and tell us what you think. I don't have an Oculus with me, so I'm not going to give you a demo. But if you have an Oculus, we'd love to hear what you think. It is definitely true that we are having that the lag is making it so that there's much less nausea with players. One caution that I would give you is that if you're doing VR for kids, you're also doing VR for girls, and there are some reasonably marked differences in terms of how many girls get nauseous in VR than boys. And there's a paper that you can find about the way that VR tends to make their 3D happen. That boys tend to rely a little bit more on parallax, and girls tend to rely a little bit more on a complex shading thing. And so if you are doing VR for kids, probably you need to take that into account and be aware that you may need to do some extra engineering to sort of help half of your demographic, maybe not half, maybe 30% of your demographic not get sick.
Are boys better than girls then, or?
No, but the Oculus system was designed primarily by men for men, and so they, in their initial stuff, I don't think they really took this into account. It's not that hard to do your own technology to fill in for it, but it's just a minor difference that really hasn't been tracked very well. And if you're going to be doing VR apps that girls want to play, you're going to want to try to make sure that you don't make them nauseous for no reason.
Let's thank Harley.